to Change Ed.
Change Ed.
Your number one favorite podcast in all of Pennsylvania land and the rest of the country. I am your host, Andrew Kuhn, education consultant from Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. And here with me is
Patrice Semachek, also an educational consultant from the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit.
Patrice, your voice sounds a little rasp.
Listen, I took 2 days off and my body said, nope, now it's time to bring on all the sickness. So I have a little bit of a cold.
This is why we don't take days off. This is why
lessons were learned. How dare I go to Florida for 3 days?
With us, we have a guest who has partnered with the MCIU and has done lots of work all across the state of Pennsylvania and beyond. Katie Bateman, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's really exciting to be here.
Katie, we're thrilled to have you, and I got to be honest, your title was too long for me to write down on my one piece of paper. If you don't mind, if you please introduce yourself to the Change Ed Nation, maybe tell us what your fancy title is and what you're involved with. That'd be great.
I am currently Professional Learning and Research Manager in PK-12 education at the Museum of Science, Boston. But that is at the moment. Prior to that, I was a teacher in Montgomery County for many years before going back to graduate school.
A Montgomery County local.
Wow.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. In the month of May, we are focusing and have been focusing on what is STEELS. It's not just another acronym. It is so much more. And we've been talking about what it is. We've been focused on what is science. Now with you, we want to look at what is tech and engineering. What are those things? What does it mean? Why is it part of the conversation? And we don't want to forget that there's also the environmental literacy and sustainability part. So I guess my first question is, where do you see tech and engineering fitting into this acronym? Besides the middle, how does it actually work into the acronym itself?
So one of the really interesting things about engineering is that it can kind of flex into these spaces where it needs to fit in the school day with educators. Not every school or district is going to have a STEM teacher or a technology and engineering teacher who can do this separately. So the great thing about engineering is that it takes all of the science that you're already teaching to your students, that's already part of the standards, and gives you a way to use it. So one of the ways in the Youth Engineering Solutions curriculum that we've really been intentional is in creating an ask phase of the engineering design process that gives students the opportunity to experience the science that they need in order to complete the design challenge, but doesn't actually teach the science to mastery in the way that a science class does. So it can be used in a technology and engineering space without having any science needing to be taught outside of what's in the curriculum, or a science teacher can take it and use it in their classroom, sort of at the end of a unit on one of these topics. And it makes a really nice culminating activity because they get to see, why am I learning all of this? How can I use it? The lines between science and engineering get a little blurry the higher level that you get. One of the ways that we've been talking about that a little bit lately has been the idea that science produces knowledge, engineering designs solutions, but then those design solutions can help get the information to generate more knowledge, and that generated knowledge can help design further solutions.
One of the things that I heard you say that I wanted to just capitalize was that the addition of tech and engineering into the standards actually allows for more options. It sounds like it's a pathway in, not only for learners, but also for educators. You could either pick up from there and keep running in a different direction. That could be the starting spot that you can dive into further learning.
Yeah, I think there's some really great opportunities in engineering. And total transparency, this is not anything that was part of my teaching regimen when I was in the classroom. Engineering was not a thing that we were doing. Most educators that I know, this was not part of their teacher preparation program in any capacity. And we don't require an engineering course in the same way that we require people in college to take a biology, a chemistry, a physics, an earth science. We ask them to take these science disciplines, but we don't ask people to take an engineering course. Mm-hmm. So it can be really intimidating to try and pick up engineering, not knowing what it is, But when you have some good resources and you start to really break down what does it actually mean to do engineering in my classroom, it doesn't have to be complicated or scary, and it does not have to take up a huge amount of your year. We can do these engineering design challenges in 2 weeks of 45-minute lessons that can be spread out, can be condensed, whatever works in people's schedules, because every school is different, every child is different, every teacher is different.
And I imagine that what you're saying, just the engineering design challenges, that those are the parts that your students are going to look forward to the most. Even if they're small, they're concise, you're in and out, that's where they're actually doing it. That's what I see so much about engineering. When we talk about the 3 dimensions of learning, you have your knowing, your thinking, and your doing. Really, when you're getting into engineering, you're getting into the doing and being not only minds-on, but you're being hands-on, and you're actually putting it together, and you're learning from that experience and what you're doing.
Yeah, having been in classrooms mostly in Pennsylvania, but also across the country in the last year, I would say I was in 7 classrooms and 4 of them were here in Pennsylvania. We interview students at the end of it, right? We ask them about their experience in this engineering unit. And over and over again, from our kindergartnens up to our middle schoolers, we hear about how they love doing. They're like, we got to do something. We had a little girl, 4th grader, say to us, it's like science, but with other people. And it kind of makes you go, what does that mean? Because her teacher was phenomenal, right? They had it, and that was who she had during the day. And I think for her, it was just this constant idea of we're always collaborating. Mm-hmm. This is one of those practices of engineering that we talk about, right? Is communication and collaborative teamwork. That's a part of the regular everyday experience of adults, not just in engineering, but in general. We want them talking to each other, and it gives them this really great opportunity to get in and, for lack of a better word, get dirty, get in there, make a mess. It will make a mess a lot of times, right? Because they've got stuff. And as soon as you get stuff, it gets messy. But that's where this real learning happens. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the benefit of doing engineering isn't really about the solution that comes out of it. It's the process. It's the act of engaging in all of these pieces, in the communication, in the collaboration, in this imagining phase, right? Letting kids exercise their creativity and letting them fail. Letting them experience the fact that you don't have to get it right the first time. We're going to come back and try this again. You get the chance to try again. Because as adults, how often do we walk into a situation in our careers where this is do or die, get it right the first time, or you're done? Unless you're a surgeon, maybe we get the opportunity to fail and learn from our failures.
Even then, surgeons have had years, up to a decade of practice on all kinds of things. So I think you're 100% right. There's never, as an adult, the time to say it's now or never. It's a really good point.
And thinking about your process versus product, what's fascinating is that in previous podcasts, we've talked about a green light versus a stop sign. Things that encourage you to continue on would be your green lights, and things where it kind of stops the process, that would be your stop sign. So as I think about it, your process is really your green light, where it's like, let's keep going. No, that's not it. Let's continue to build. Let's move. What else can we learn from this? How can we continue to grow? And really, when you get to the end product, that is really almost like your stop sign. We've halted, unless you intentionally come back to it and say, how can we continue to build on it? What I'm hearing is that, as you said, it's the process or the journey, not necessarily the destination. When you hit the destination, that's where it kind of halts things. And we want to continue to grow and encourage our students to expand upon what they currently understand and to make this attempt.
When we talk about how our brain learns, if we're not making failure, we're not learning, right? So when your brain is creating these new synapses, if you don't have opportunities to fail or try new things, you're not building pathways in your brain. And so we're not saying fail as in terms of being a failure. We're saying fail as in your first attempt in learning. And that is what creates the synapses. And that is what continues to get our brains to grow. And I say to my kids at home all the time, I'm like, boys, I want you to have the most wrinkly brain possible. And in order for you to have the most wrinkly brain possible, you have to try new things, make new pathways, and do all of these things. And so the engineering, like you're saying, is that hands-on piece that allows kids to make those connections in their brains even more deeply, because there's a hands-on component that goes along with the learning that comes along with the reading and the things that you guys have built into the YES program, which I think is so phenomenal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say what we want with failure is to move it away from an identity to action. It's just a thing that happens. It does not define you. It is not your identity. You are not a failure.
Right.
This thing failed to meet the goal that you set for it.
And now what do you do about it?
And now what do you do about it? And the transferability of that from engineering to the rest of their lives is something that we heard from educators a lot. In one of the studies that we were doing last year around English learners in particular, we were looking at how can we support students in taking risks, thinking that if we get them to take risks in engineering, then maybe that will increase their taking risk in language, which absolutely we started to see with these particular students. But this idea of failing in engineering and recognizing that it is okay to not get it right the first time, really teachers saw some mind shifts from their students who might have been a little more, I need to get it right the first time. I need to be successful in other areas during these programs that they were working with them in.
Yeah, I think the same can be said, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in other podcasts too, about our advanced and gifted learners. They will be those, I need to get this right the first time type of kids for the most part. I'm generalizing, of course, but I have seen as a struggle for those kids to be able to accept the fact that a failure in terms of the design is not the stop sign or the red light that Andrew was talking about earlier. That they tend to see it as that, oh, I didn't do it successfully, therefore I can't continue, and it becomes part of their identity versus a part of life. So I think the way that you guys have designed, again, and you were talking about this before, about how you are intentionally designing for multiple ends of the spectrum, I think is huge. And I have not seen very many programs that do that.
So one of the things I will say related to failure before I move on to touch on the diverse learners idea is I think we need something between a stop sign and a green light, because we do want them to pause. We don't want them to fail and just keep barreling through. We do want that thinking to happen where they're like, why? What went wrong? How do I use evidence to make decisions? Because again, that's one of those skills that transfers really well outside of
every subject,
engineering classroom. We want them as citizens thinking, everything from small scale to large scale. Why would I want to use a paper bag versus a plastic bag for my groceries? Why might I have benefits? What evidence do I have? Rather than what are my friends doing? Have I learned in different spaces? What evidence do I have to make these decisions?
I love that. Teeny gives you the yellow light. Come on, we've got a full traffic light now. Thank you,
Got
Teeny.
it. Little yield sign, maybe.
Yeah, like a slow roll.
Slow it down and think it through. So I will say there's a really intentional kind of yield sign that is in the YES curriculum. And I am really intentional when I do professional learning about this particular phase to help with some of those students who might need a little more support. The only time that we talk about not collaborating in the engineering classroom is when you're imagining. I tell teachers, put on some, quiet spa music, tell them they're working on their own. This is thinking time. And they have to document their sort of brainstorm, their imagined, these creative ideas based on their ask phase, right? We've done all this kind of science learning to this point. Take all of that. We're thinking about a solution to the problem, and you do it silently and on your own so that one, everybody brings different ideas to the table. So you get this diversity of perspectives, you get this multiple solutions. It gives students different ideas to negotiate. So they practice those argumentation skills. But to me, one of the most important parts is that if you have a student who's working, let's say you have two students who are working together, and one is your outgoing, likes to voice their opinions, likes to share their ideas. can sometimes railroad a discussion in a small group, not intentionally. It's just they're so excited they want to share. Working with somebody who maybe isn't as proactive in expressing their ideas or needs more think time, whether that's just their personality or maybe they have some processing issues that have scaffolds built into the day, they have that extra time. And it allows the teacher as they're going around to make sure that the railroad student doesn't come through and take over everything. They have an idea that they can point out that then also designates that other student as valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So a student who maybe isn't recognized during the regular classroom day gets to get highlighted because there's something tangible on this Imagine page that a teacher can point to and say, hey, have you thought about what this person has written on their page? This is really interesting. Brings that quiet kid back into the conversation so that their ideas are heard too, and their ideas are elevated as valuable, and that they then are a contributing member to the group, bringing up that engineering identity of like, hey, I am smart. I am important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the kids we see flourishing in these engineering design challenges are not necessarily your kids getting A's in the regular classroom day. More often than not, they are your neurodivergent kids. They are your kids who have IEPs for a variety of reasons. I tell the story of one of the little boys. We were in a kindergarten classroom this year in Pennsylvania, last school year. And this little boy didn't speak the whole 2 weeks we were in the room with them. He was in the process of being evaluated for special education services. We did know that they spoke a language other than English at home. And so he just didn't talk. But at the end of the weeks, the 2 weeks we were there, he had the best solution. So kindergarten, they design a sun hat. His was absolutely the most functional of anybody else in that room. So where he may have not looked like he was comprehending the challenge, he might not have looked like he was listening, he absolutely was listening.
Yeah.
He didn't have the verbal skills to tell you the design he was making, but he absolutely could make that sun hat with his hands, put it on his head, test it, kind of circle the graphics that we use in kindergarten of just like thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Did it work? Did it not work? That child also, I didn't even think he like recognized that I was in the room, but when we went to leave and the teacher had told them it was our last day, like all of a sudden I just feel this little body next to mine and he just came over and hugged me. Like it was like, all right, sorry, goodbye. We were excited you were here. That was how he spoke, right? He was still communicating. We need that multimodal opportunity for all of our students, which we've tried really hard to build into these curricular materials in the S units, K through 8, because we want every student to be able to engineer. Every student can engineer.
And that's so important because a lot of times as kids get older, they have less and less hands-on experiences. And so it's really critical. Our brains don't learn massively differently between kindergarten and 8th grade. They still need to get their hands dirty and they still need to build and they still need to manipulate. So it's really important that that's built in there. And I think that's something that you guys do really, really well.
Yeah, it is amazing to watch some of these kids, especially at middle school. We were just in a middle school classroom and you just have to laugh. I've spent a lot of time with elementary the last 2 years, and being in this middle school classroom and everybody's like too cool for school in middle school, right? That posturing and making sure that you do some self-preservation work, can't stick out too much one way or the other. They were so excited to build these medicine coolers and to actually create something tangible that solved a real problem. And being middle schoolers and their sassy selves, and in interviews that we did at the end, right in front of their teacher, they were like so happy to tell us about that they don't get to do that during the day, that their science class is regurgitation essentially of information. But here they got to do something, and that something meant something to someone. All of our units right now, you can go to yes.mos.org and you can download any of these curricular units for free from our website.
You know, what is so fascinating about everything you're saying is that the ability to on-ramp all students, however you learn, wherever you're coming from, whatever your interests are, to be able to on-ramp you. And part of what I think is that the challenges we face as a society are not going to be going away. So if we could have more minds on, if we could have more hands on, more individuals who are interested, how much quicker we could get to solutions or have lots of options. I feel like so many times we find ourselves with only one option to do something, but really there should be so many that we could have at our disposal. So to have more minds looking at it and looking at it from various perspectives would just really strengthen all that we have to offer as human beings and this engineering concept.
Environmental literacy standards tie in really well too, that can be really brought in and talked about with students in almost any science and engineering content area, right? There's a way to tie that back in.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing you say is really, I think, one of the big reasons that all these different components are being integrated together, because it all matters, right? Not just some of it matters, or at times parts of it matter, but it all matters. So let's have the conversation together, not in isolation, where then, my T&E group, it worked on this design, and then your environmental group comes and says, that's terrible for the environment. Well, then we have to start all over again. Let's just have it all at one time, figure out the best solution, instead of, we're actually wasting resources. If we create a solution, then we have to go back to the drawing board. Then we create a new solution. So let's pause and design it the right way from the beginning.
I was gonna say that's such a great place to talk with students too about the value and the challenges in using models and prototypes, which I know is a big kind of thing coming into SEALs that maybe, especially at the K-5 level, teachers weren't really thinking about, but they do use models and prototypes every day. We just have to call attention to it.
Well, believe it or not, we are actually at the end of our 15-ish minute podcast. So we'd like to send you the second to last final thought.
I think what I would say I want the big takeaway for people to be is, again, that every single student can engage in engineering.
Katie, thank you so much for coming on. We really
thanks for having me.
I've talked to you for hours. We'll have to have you back.
Yeah, this is obviously not a once and done for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you to our listeners for always being so committed and interested and engaged in all things STEELS, but also all things education. So on behalf of the entire Change Ed team, we'd like to say thank you for tuning in. And remember to, is it follow or subscribe or both?
All of the above. Do all the things.
Hit the button, get all the notifications when things are coming out. Lots of information we are going to be sharing and sending your way. We'd like to remind you to find your T&E flex by moving failure away from identity and moving it towards action.